could be revisited when GAR comes into effect, as the Revenue Secretary has said. Unfortunately, we would have loved to continue with this conversation, but we've run out of time. Mr. Adya, Mr. Das, Mr. Ramani, always a pleasure having you here on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate you joining us here. Let's go across now to the Power Minister who's joining us live here on CNBC TV 18, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Mr. Goyal, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18, sir, and thank you very much for your time. Let me ask you, sir, as far as the rural electrification plan is concerned, the government has allocated 8,500 crore rupees for the Gram Jyoti Yojana, sir, but they've also advanced the rural electrification milestone to 100% rural electrification now being advanced to 2018 May, if I'm correct.
Well, the Honorable Prime Minister had announced on 15th August 2015 that we will make sure within 1,000 days that every village in the electricity gets connected and power reaches there. We are committed to that. The Finance Minister has been generous with his budgetary allocation, and I assure the nation through you that well before the target, possibly by end of 2017 itself, we will ensure that these 18,452 villages, and by the way, Shereen, these are the worst villages. They are the top of mountains, they are in dense forests. We will make sure that electricity reaches there by end of 2017. The updated figure today of completed village is 5,899. By March we should cross 7,000. So we have already done 1/3 of the villages. We are committed to doing this, and by 2019 we'll also make sure every home gets electricity 24/7.
So you're saying that you will actually better on what the budget has articulated, Mr. Goyal, in terms of rural electrification rollout?
Yes, certainly we'll do it much faster. We are very confident. We have a well rolled out program. It is available on an app which I have urged you and your readers to download. It's an app called GARV, G-A-R-V, and that will help you monitor my performance and keep me in check.
We'll be monitoring closely, Mr. Goyal, but let me overall ask you, because as far as the Infrastructure Investment Trust is concerned, between the roads and railways, roads the allocation is 55,000 crore rupees, another 15,000 crore rupees through bonds. Altogether with the PMJSY, it works out to about 97,000 crore rupees, and between railway and roads, it works out to about 2,18,000 crore rupees. Do you believe that when it comes to capital expenditure, especially on the infrastructure side is concerned, we will see a significant lift-off?
Well, certainly this budget has focused its energies on an all-encompassing vision to take different sectors forward in different ways. Now, if you look at the road and rail sector, they are catalysts of growth, of job and employment, and they can really kickstart many other sectors, be it construction industry, be it electrical industry, be it the cement and steel industry. So this has a huge impact, the multiplier impact on the economy. But this is not all. This is one sector, be it education, be it the rollout of greater degree of healthcare services. While rural electrification is going on, we are also focusing on Uday, which has many other dimensions. Feeder segregation, it has dimensions of smart metering, it has dimensions of energy efficiency. We are looking at LED rollout for energy efficiency, which is the world's largest program ever embarked in the history of the world. Looking at renewable energy to entail $100 billion investment. This year alone we bid out 18,000 megawatts. So investment will come in different areas.
Could I ask you about the green cess, Mr. Goyal, and what the assumption is as far as the green cess is concerned?
Well, there are two elements of this. One is on the coal, which has been doubled from 200 to 400, which I heartily welcome. Its impact on power generation is very nominal. It's about 12 paisa per unit, and will give the government about 6,000 to 8,000 crores which, or 9,000 crores, which they can deploy for green energy and to further support renewable energy, which is good for all. It adds to India's energy security and addresses the serious challenge of climate change. The other
Let me
element
just
is
go
on
over those numbers again, Mr. Goyal, for the benefit of our viewers.
To encourage hybrids and electric cars.
Yeah, but just on the coal cess, you're saying that it will work out to an additional 12 paise per unit, and the government could mop up between 6 to 7,000 crores on account of the hike in the cess.
About 8,000 crore is what I think the Honorable Finance Minister has budgeted. Could be slightly more or less. But the bigger picture is that while Uday comprehensively addresses these issues, we will be saving 1,80,000 crores annually only in the power sector. So this 8,000 crores is very minuscule cost to pay when we'll juxtapose it to the larger saving. But this small amount will go a long way for India's energy security as well as for addressing the climate change issues.
Mr. Goyal, let me also ask you about what the government intends to do on the fiscal review of the review of the FRBM. In fact, the Finance Secretary also alluding to the fact that it makes more sense now to look at a consolidated fiscal deficit of the centre and the states. And there have been concerns on what the Uday scheme, for instance, could do as far as the state fiscal deficit is concerned. How does this play out to your mind, and what have been the consultations that you, for instance, have had on the impact of Uday?
Well, except for one or two individuals in the country or one or two journalists, nobody else has ever criticized Uday or found any problem with the scheme. What we have only done is we've converted a de facto borrowing of the state into a de jure borrowing. This borrowing was already there. There's no additional borrowing. It's just that it was parked into the DISCOM. But the whole world knew, and I talked to several rating agencies, they were already factoring in this borrowing as a part of the fiscal problems of the state. So let me reassure your viewers and you that we are not causing any additional borrowing. On the contrary, we are solving the distress of the banking sector, which could otherwise have been faced with a colossal problem, much worse than what it is today. We are at the same time strengthening the DISCOMs so that they can purchase more electricity and serve the people with 24/7 power, something they've not been doing for lack of ability to buy power. And as a consequence, we'll save the banking sector from another 3 or 4 lakh crore of stressed assets and stranded assets, which otherwise don't have demand. So I think Uday has comprehensively resolved these problems, and almost unanimously across the world, people have appreciated the deep impact and the transformative impact Uday will have for a permanent resolution of the power sector problems.
Okay. Mr. Goyal, let me also ask you this, since you were talking about stalled projects also. The government, in order to expedite investments into the infrastructure sector, is looking at a public utility resolution bill. It's also looking at bringing in some PPP concession agreement guidelines which will be issued. Can you take us through what this would mean specifically for the power sector?
Well, really in the power sector, the regulatory issues are not something which is causing any concern. There were a few issues particularly related to change in domestic laws, which we have already addressed through the tariff policy that the Union Cabinet approved some time back. There aren't any significant challenges as such, and those that are there are already under the consideration of the regulatory authorities. So really that mechanism will be more useful in other public-private partnership projects, particularly relating to the road sector. In the power sector, by and large, issues are all getting resolved. If we still have any issues, we'll be happy to get it resolved through the new mechanism that's being evolved. I don't see any great problem in sorting it out bilaterally. Well, if we repeal the amendment, we'll be doing a retrospective change, which we are committed not to do. I think Mr. Chidambaram is getting wiser out of government than he was in government. In the first place, this tax was ill-conceived. Finance Minister Mr. Jaitly and I both are on record in the Rajya Sabha for wholesomely criticizing
Address
this
that
tax
issue now, sir.
when it was
Mr.
brought in.
Chidambaram didn't have...
They didn't have the numbers. How were they in government? They should have left the government and resigned and gone away. They had the numbers in a coalition which they should have used. I think that's a lame excuse for a former finance minister to give. I think he should truly appreciate that Honorable Finance Minister Mr. Jaitly has bitten the bullet. And look at the logic behind this. The tax is a fact. It has been brought in by the last government. Now, obviously, since the Supreme Court had also ruled that it's not taxable, it's quite clear that the taxpayers themselves could not have understood that this tax is payable. So levying tax and penalty on them, or interest and penalty on them, is grossly unfair. So Finance Minister is taking the right path. Now that it is a part of the statute, the tax certainly is payable, but because it was not out of any deliberate effort not to pay the tax, because it was an interpretation which even the Supreme Court had upheld, it's only appropriate that interest and penalty should be waived. I think it's a win-win solution, and my own informal discussions tell me that most of these companies will be delighted to settle these matters and close it once and for all.
Sorry, you're saying you've had informal discussions with companies like Vodafone and you believe that they will take up the government on this offer?
I have not had informal discussions with the companies, but I've certainly had informal discussions with tax experts.